Let's take a brief look at HTTP request and response in this video. When we have a browser and a web server, the communication between them happens via request and response sequences. These request and responses uses a protocol called HTTP protocol, which is the abbreviation for Hypertext Transmission Protocol. It doesn't matter whether we are using HTTP or HTTPS, the underlying communication structure remains the same. Except that when we are using HTTPS, the whole message is encrypted. This HTTP is an application layer protocol, so the underlying network or transport infrastructure will not aware of this protocol. This protocol defines a particular structure and format for request as well as for response. We will take a brief look at them now. This is the structure or schema for the request. So the request always starts with request line. Then we will have header, and then optionally we may have body. So the request line will be of this structure. It will have method, which is one of the HTTP methods. Then it will have the path. Path is the resource within the web server. Then it will say what is the HTTP version that is being used. So for example, when we are using get method, it will say get, then the path, in this case patient/2, and then the protocol and its version. In this case, the protocol is HTTP and its version is 1.1. Then we have header. Header is actually a series of key value pairs. This header describes this particular request. It will have more information about this request. So the key value pairs are separated by colon, and we can have more than one key value pair, and we will have one key value pair per line. So in this case, if you see here, we have two of these key value pairs, also known as headers. The first one is host and its value is google.com, and the second one is something called accept and its value is text/html. So this header indicates to the server that this is the format in which it is expecting the response back from the server. And if you're sending any cookies from your browser to the web server, those cookies will also be included as part of this header. Then optionally we have body. Body is where we have the actual payload. So this includes the data that we want to send from our client side to server side. For example, the data could be JSON data, plain data, or it could be anything like, attachment, images, it could be anything like that. So any data that you want to send from your client side to server side will be included in the body. Okay, and again, body is optional. Not all requests will have body. For example, the get request or head request may not have body at all. Okay. Now let's move on to response. Response has very similar structure, except that rather than having a request line, it has status line. So in the status line, it will have the protocol name and version, very similar to the one that we have seen in the request. And then we'll have status code and then the status message. So we have many well-defined status codes by HTTP protocol, and the status code will be one of those. And the status message will be a short message describing that status code. So for example, here we see that HTTP/1.1, this is the protocol and the version. Then we have status code called 200. This is actually indicating that the request has been processed successfully and we have got a successful response. So status code 200 means success. And there are many different codes. For example, status code 500 means error. 404 means not found. So there are many well-defined status codes, and the response will always include one of those valid status codes. And then in this case, we have OK as a status message, which describes this status code. And very similar to the request, we also have header in the response, and again it is a key value pair. We can have many of them. This time the header describes the response. So if you see here, we have this content type, and it says that the content type is text HTML. This indicates that the body that is coming as part of this response is of this particular type. That is, the body is HTML. And it also includes the content length. In this case, the content length is 437 bytes. And if the server wants to set any cookies on the client side, then those cookies will be sent as a header. Okay. And again, in the response, we have body, which is optional. So some of the response may include body and some of them may not. So the body can be of anything, very similar to request. The body can be of anything like JSON, plain text, image, video, or anything that you can think of. Okay. So just to go back, We are using HTTP protocol for client-server communication in the context of web, and that protocol defines a particular structure and schema for request and response, and we had a brief look at them here. Okay, so I hope this is useful. Thank you.